In a world where A-Dub and E-Ray have left their mics, a man emerges from Bill and Ted's phone booth that also kind of looks like a DeLorean to give the people what they didn't even know they needed. He captivates the masses with his stories of quantum leaping from one wrestling era to another, comparing and contrasting the wrestling world of old with the wrestling world of today in only the way he can. Ladies and gentlemen, Let Me Book the Territory proudly presents The BA Show, featuring Sean from Fourth Rope Wrestling, powered by the Embrace the Turn Up Network.
Hey, yo, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who should be in bed not listening to this or doing child activities. This is episode 5 of the hottest nostalgia pod known to mankind. This is the BA Show with the homie BA DiBase, aka Black IRS, aka the beef of the East, Mr. Man on the Street, putting on for the Let Me Book the Territory boys in the building. And you know I couldn't be here without my manager, my wise man, the genius of the fourth rope, the homie Sean. What's going on this evening, Brody?
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I present to you the best pod duo, the street prophets of pod.
Want all the smoke.
It is me, Glock Lesnar. How y'all doing today? How you doing, BA?
I'm good, man. Speaking of, if we the street prophets of pod, we need just swishers and fucking backwards falling from the crowd or the sky like the solo cups do when the street prophets come out, do their little 1-2. That shit would be fire. But as y'all know, it is Money in the Bank season. Money in the Bank is a very, very special time in the WWE, in my opinion. It is always kind of like an eye-opener for who's next up, basically, throughout the next year, as who the next person that's going to get the rub, so to speak, from the booking agents and people in the back, as far as who's going to be the next guy, as far as in that main event scene. So we felt it would have been no better time, this being the first like episodes of the BA show, for us to talk about the first ever official kind of Money in the Bank. And I say kind of because there was Money in the Bank matches before they made it a full blown out pay-per-view. The first one taking place at WrestleMania 21. Very, very popular at that point. They had just a basic, just Halliburton briefcase hanging up from the ceiling. It was very new. But as you know, if you're a WWE fan or a wrestling fan in general, you usually love a good ladder match. And WWE was very famous for some very iconic ladder matches throughout history. So I'm gonna start there, Sean. Like, what's your favorite ladder match or Money in the Bank match, whatever it is? What's your favorite match concerning a ladder being in the ring?
My favorite match concerning a ladder being in the ring, that would probably have to be either TLC 1 or 2. Off the rip. Just the mix of those tag teams and what they did to revolutionize ladders in a match for WWE.
Oh, like your Edge and Christian, Dudleys.
Yeah, Dudley's, Hardys. Yeah, that shit. Chef's kiss.
That tracks.
Chef's kiss, absolutely.
I give you that. I'd have to say this sign of my age here. My favorite ladder match is because it's iconic. Even though there's been I'd say more violent and more exciting ladder matches, but because it was the first one that we had seen on mainstream television, Shawn and Razor. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that match. I know it by heart, damn near. Just because I've been seeing it since it happened in 95. So, or 94, excuse me. So that's a great ladder match in my eye. They call it Shawn basically wrestling a ladder. I think that's low-key disrespectful to Razor Ramon. He was there too. But I understand Sean is Sean. He's Mr. Showstopper. That's what he does. But this particular Money in the Bank, 2 men's matches, no women's yet. The women haven't integrated themselves into this match yet. So that's one thing that jumped out on the screen to me, because this is like a transitional period for women's wrestling in WWE. I feel like, as we'll get into later in the card. But yeah, you got 2 men's matches: the Raw Money in the Bank and the SmackDown Money in the Bank, and they lead off. And this pay-per-view takes place in Kansas City, Missouri. We also get a shout out, and I always love when they show my guys at the Mexican announce table. Shout out to my guys. I can't remember their names right now, but they've before they vanished from the zeitgeist of the WWE. They are, as everybody knows, listening to this from nostalgia purposes, every pay-per-view you would see those guys, and then sometimes they're even showing the Japanese announcers and the Russian announcers. That's more WrestleMania season, when they get into like all the different nationalities and things of that nature, as far as the different announcing groups. So that was pretty cool. I guess you don't see that anymore, really. But yeah, first match, SmackDown Money in the Bank match. So you start off Kofi. This is Kingston Kofi, as I call him, when he had his Jamaican gimmick, and everybody thought he was Jamaican, but nobody knew he was really from Ghana, basically. He was just wild. So you got Kofi coming down, IC champ at the time, by the way. Nice. You got Mr. Show Me, Dolph Ziggler, the best seller in the business, in my opinion, and in his as well. Christian without Edge. This was the Peeps era, if I remember correctly. Cody as Dashing Cody Rhodes, which we'll get into here shortly. Mr. Long Cody and them legs just sticking out like worse than Matt Riddle not wearing pants. It feels like anytime I see him in them trunks these days on the current product. Matt Hardy without Jeff, so that's always different. This is the anointed one, I call him, the anointed Drew McIntyre. When Vince basically said he's going to be the guy. Kane, one of our versions of Kane we'll talk about a little bit later, and Big Show to be the last anchor to kind of hold it down. So these Money in the Bank, because now is it seven with the inclusion of Logan Paul recently, I believe, but typically these matches, and that's what's crazy about them, they could be anywhere from 6 to 8 people sometimes. And nobody really knows, and that leaves intrigue to it. So you being in the product at the time, Sean, tell me about this grouping of gentlemen and kind of the vibes around this match as a young Sean was getting ready to watch this match in front of the TV back in 2010.
It was it's a nice match. It's not as good as its counterpart on the same card. Big Show was kind of in a weird run here, so I don't know. Kane wasn't really my favorite at the time. I've been seeing Kane for a while, over pushed in my opinion at this time. Young Kofi, Jamaican Kofi, fire, absolutely fire. Love it every time. Dolph Ziggler, best seller in the world. Cody Rhodes, I was down with it. Long knees, he just looked weird not wearing knee pads, and the dashing gimmick was pretty cool. The entire vibe of the match was just, I don't know, it wasn't really hitting for me. There was really nobody in particular that I wanted to win. It was kind of like a whatever happens, but I still ended up getting disappointed somehow. So it's a WWE thing.
Yeah, that's probably sure because Kane won.
Exactly.
You're not feeling this version of Kane, it seems.
Yeah.
And was this, now correct me if I'm wrong, this reminds me of WWE films, horror movies, See No Evil Kane, kind of just walking away from that. Definitely pre-corporate Kane.
It's pre-corporate Kane, but post movie, trying to act Kane. I saw the movie and it was cool I don't know if you were watching when they did the whole run of the May 19th and shit like that. I don't know if you ever
I've seen it and heard about it. I've seen clips of it.
Weird shit,
YouTube
bro. Weird
stuff.
shit. I feel like ever since then, Kane's image has just been kind of just like, it's not believable anymore. After, you know, when they did the whole towel and the handcuffs and shit like that, and Jim Ross was putting them over, fire. After the See No Evil shit, downhill.
Yeah, like there was some stuff like stuff I've seen from like, I always look at the comments on the crazy stuff. Glenn Jacobs tweets now, Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County, Tennessee.
Fuck Glenn
and
Jacobs.
just the egregious things that he says, and I always look at the comment section to see what people say. And there was a gif I saw of Kane was like a concession stand worker making hot dogs at an episode of Raw. I'm like, man, what the fuck was Kane doing when I wasn't watching this shit? Because I peeked back in on that more heavier basis when he was corporate Kane. I thought that was a funny gimmick. It matched the time and energy of what was happening with the product. So I wasn't mad at it, but I'm just like, really making hot dogs in backstage? Like, y'all doing this man like this? So yeah, it's always fun to look at the threads of the crazy, heavily radical, right side stuff. Glenn Jacobs tends to tweet these days.
Glenn Jacobs, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I can't associate the man with the gimmick. If I'm gonna take watching these different shows in the back in the day serious. But I will say, we were talking about Dash and Cody Rhodes. Even though his attire was trash, his theme song fire as fuck. I was like, this low key, this shit go low key. But yeah, that was this Dash and Cody Rhodes theme music. I was a low key fan for it. Maybe I seeked it out, and maybe I put it on a playlist or two. We won't talk about it. But yeah, great song. I will get to this because it wasn't, like you said, it was the lesser of the two on the card, in my opinion, as we'll go through things. But there were still some great spots in this match. I feel like anytime Kofi's in any sort of pay-per-view, like Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, heavyweight title matches, even though there will be at some point in time a serious breakdown of Kofi Mania. Maybe this upcoming WrestleMania season, who knows? Somebody's got to give it their flowers. I know plenty have, but I think we need to get into that as far as the Let Me Book conglomerate. But yeah, Kofi has a crazy spot in this match where he does a humongous leg drop off the ladder through the table. It looked like at first he like missiled into it, but he actually got his body bent to finish the leg drop. But watching it before the replay, I was like, God damn, he just fucking fin stomped that dude. That's what it looked like almost. But yeah, what was your thoughts when you saw that shit, man?
That shit, it looked like he landed on McIntyre's head when he did it, and doing a boom drop from that looked like 9 feet onto an announcer's table. Good spot. Kofi's always been known, especially in his earlier days, to do those high spots and shit like that. And that's just the youth that he had in him. Not so much anymore. You know, he still does some. Yeah, God bless him. Absolutely, bro. You know, them knees is in titanium steel, bro.
Hey, man. I think about what Matt Hardy's be talking about, because he did a ton of leg drops off the top ropes and ladders. And his back is all jacked up.
Back fused with his pelvis, bro.
Yeah, man. That's some pain, bro. That's some pain. I can't imagine that's fun.
And hell no, props to them.
Right. Then at a certain point, Big Show in this match literally steps through a ladder at the beginning of the Money in the Bank match. And then we see the Big Show ladder exposed. This humongous ladder that he took about 5 minutes trying to flip into the ring. I'm like, come on, Big Show, you too big.
Reinforced ladder.
Right. I'm like, come on. So when did they start? I mean, when Big Show was participating in ladder matches, I think this is the first time I've ever seen Big Show in a match like this concerning a ladder. So me not having heavy eyes on the product, like, was this the first time we saw the Big Show ladder, or was it shown off in the past?
I don't remember. I'm not going to say it's the first time, but I sure as hell don't remember it. But then again, I wasn't really keeping an eye on Big Show during this time. I honestly think, he was getting pretty hated, honestly. Like, you know how they say go away heat? Big Show had some go away heat. Like, people fucking hated him.
Big Show has a weird run in WWE in general, and you can think about it. Dude was in WWE for 20 some years. from when he first got in there after he left WCW, and he just recently left 2-3 years ago.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 years ago. Like I feel like after the first year of AEW, is when he jumped on board. Like him and Mark Henry jumped over there at the same time, roughly. But yeah, he has a weird, I'd say like profile, like history, like pedigree of his times in WWE, because you had Big Show when he was like very overweight, couldn't do a lot in the ring, low-key dangerous. Then he loses a bunch of weight. Then he's more of just like, I'm gonna be putting guys over. Then as you said, has some go away heat at this time. I remember popping back into the product and seeing this man crying on national television from Stephanie McMahon. I was like, this is some bullshit. You too big, bro. So yeah, Big Show does have a weird kind of just booking track record in WWE, to say the least.
Really, his whole wrestling career, even Eric Bischoff and them booked him like heel face, back and forth, just weird shit, bro. Like,
yeah, when he was the Giant in WCW, there was, and goes back to past episodes. NWO, we gonna get you put over just because you're big as hell. Like, and like you said, there was no rhyme or reason for him to be in the NWO, out of the NWO. It was like anytime Hulk Hogan needed a foe, they always tapped Big Show for the Giant first, because it was just easy heat. And Hogan always talks about how he was booked against Andre, so they probably looked at it as low-hanging fruit. But enough Big Show, because he's a non-factor in this match. They threw the whole let's throw ladders on top of him spot, and you never see him again. So after he vanishes, not a lot to talk about in Big Show's regard. One question I do have for you, and I'm sure we will get into this man's kind of like run before he went to the indies, but was Cody like very, very like well received in this moment in time? Like I know at the end result is he's gonna leave because of booking and stuff, but this particular gimmick, because I feel like there was some things that could have worked here. Like you could have definitely marketed the arrogant, dashing, I'm better than you, my dad is Dusty Rhodes type of vibes, but it doesn't look like people were really buying into it.
Well, the problem with it was, I don't know how deep you go into the Cody Rhodes, the Codyverse is what they call it. Yeah, it's the Codyverse. And so the dashing eventually did get over, but it ended abruptly because he got a face injury. I don't remember.
Oh, he started rocking the Kyrie LeBron mask.
I don't remember if he broke his nose or if it was like a cheekbone or like a orbital. I don't remember, but he had to rock the mask. And so what he did, he started doing undashing Cody Rhodes. And when he walked out, he started giving people paper bags to put over their face because they're ugly monstrosities and they shouldn't like be seen by the world. Because he's undashing now and shit like that.
That is hilarious.
It's the Codyverse. It's how he takes his gimmick and literally took an injury that was legit and turned it into a whole nother gimmick that goes off of the other one to continue. Like it was pretty nice. So yeah, that's why it never really went anywhere.
So I'll ask you this, since we're in the Codyverse. Is the current American Nightmare, is that like Miles Morales, basically? And then all the other Codys, like I think Peter Parker Cody would be like Cody when he first got the AEW, heavy Peter Parker vibes. And then
Stardust is like Spider Pig or something like that.
There you go. It's like there's so many different directions you could go with the parallel of the Cody versus Spider-Man. That's good shit for another day. But yeah, I was there. You go. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I was curious how dashing was like, because I was like, this doesn't look like a terrible gimmick. Like, I don't know why this didn't get over as much, but I'm sure Cody has thoughts on that too, and I'm sure Cody now would tell you he probably didn't take it as serious as he should have been. If I know how Cody kind of talks about this time in his career, but. Like I said, another show. We got to keep moving on. Eventually in this match, like I said, not a ton of spots enough, but long story short, Kane ends up winning. the Money in the Bank. I think this is Kane's only ever Money in the Bank win. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, Sean. But I think it's the only time that man's ever won it, and he wins it in a fashion in which there's nobody really contesting the ladder. Like I said, this is a very just let's just roll these guys out here. Just let them know money. This is a Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the ending? Kane winning, arena turning red. Nothing major. I know you weren't big on this Kane version.
Tell me, expound on that. Tell me why you didn't like this Kane.
It was overplayed. They used him like in a spot where he was just needed, and the problem was he was needed a lot. They needed to use different people, but Kane filled too many roles. He was overpushed. I don't think he should have. We'll get into what he did with it, but I don't think he should have won this match in the briefcase at all. I would have much rather I don't know, like McIntyre was already getting pushed to the fucking moon by Vince. Why not put the fucking briefcase on him, man? Honestly.
Maybe and talk more about that, because I was gonna say, and that's when we get to that next, because that's the last person he knocks off the ladder is Drew before he grabs the briefcase. And this version of Drew, as y'all know, if anybody listening to this had eyes on this product at the time, this is not the Drew McIntyre we have today. This Drew had to go through a lot to get the Drew we have today, which is, I mean, this is how greatness is built. You got to go through shit to become great if you're going to be great. It just happened. So a lot of people think that cursed him, probably got him set up for better. I'm a glass half full type of dude, so I'm always look at that type of adversity, especially if somebody's like basically trying to give you the thinner curse. Shout out to Stephen King's thinner, where you about to get this rub, so to speak, but it's gonna be detrimental to your overall run. In the short term, it looked like it fucked him over, but I think now, especially with him kind of realizing the power he wields in the main event spot, in the current product and where the main event spot is going, they kind of need him back more than he needs to come back right now. So what were your thoughts on early Drew? And do you agree with my take on we needed this Drew to get to the Drew we have today?
Yeah, absolutely. You needed this Drew to realize it was too early and why it was too early. And then he, not fell off, but he went to the Indies, did a lot of work, found himself, came back and totally redid it. Like when I first saw Drew McIntyre as the grown, full beard, hairy ass dude that we know now, I didn't know that was Drew McIntyre until the announcer said his name.
Yeah, he looks nothing like the over.
Nothing like him. And even my wife was like, who is that? And I'm like, that's Drew McIntyre. And she's like two dudes with the same name. And I'm like, no, that's the Drew McIntyre. She's like, oh, he's unrecognizable. Absolutely unrecognizable. So yeah, we definitely needed him, because if they did continue the push and keep him going, I feel like he would have fell off and kind of never got to the point of where he was now. And he still deserves more, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely I think, like, to talk about more current stuff, I think it was bullshit, and I know it's not his fault how he won that title in the pandemic era. He had no choice but to just throw that title on him like that. So I'm not upset about it because I get the circumstances, but I really, really, really hope that Drew will get his moment, because I don't look at that. I think it was WrestleMania 36 when he went over and beat Brock. I don't think that was like I said, circumstances, but it wasn't a fair spot for his moment. So I hope at some point in the next 5 years, because who knows, the way they're booking these days around the main titles is quite long term. So I don't know when that happens again where it makes sense, because I feel like there's other guys next up from when Roman drops the belt officially to be in line for that. But he absolutely, I think we need to see that happen. But yeah, like I said, he gets tossed off the ladder. We get Kane. Kane is Mr. Money in the Bank for SmackDown. On to the next thing. We got a Sheamus promo. Sheamus was in his whole bag right now. This was the heel that was being pitted against Cena, as Big Match John was going against a lot of adversity, it seemed, at this time. this is what, as people always want to talk about him burying people on his way to his Cena status, so to speak. This seemed like more of the opposite, where Cena talking about how he was actually taking L's more than people really look back at. And I think this is a very good segment of time to point to as him being in a spot where he could have easily been the heavyweight champ, but he wasn't. And he had lost to Sheamus a couple different times before their match tonight, or the match in this event tonight. So, but what were your thoughts on Sheamus being that person to kind of go head to head and be Cena's rival in this moment?
It was probably one of the best picks WWE had at the moment, figuring they were going for a more young push in their champions. If you notice, I don't remember who was the U.S. title holder at this time, but
that'd be the Miz.
So, that's right. So Miz, I forget how old Miz was at this time. He's probably in his mid-20s, probably.
Mid to late 20s, maybe even early 30s.
So Miz was kind of young. You had Kofi as Intercontinental Champion, Jack Swagger, or was heavyweight, but we'll talk about that. And then you got WWE Champion as Sheamus. So going for a very young push here. Sheamus was good in ring, in the wrestling, a little slow. He's pretty young at this time. Hated him on the mic on his younger days. His promos were ass to me. I don't like them at all. They sounded forced and pretty generic, to be honest. But other than that, cool champion to go against Cena.
Yeah, I mean, he embodied what a heel should look like and feel like the whole just pale ginger look, and like you said, promo work wasn't there yet, but the in-ring work was, so to speak. We'll get into that match later, but I was just curious on, because again, as I'm going to continue to reiterate throughout this episode, I was not watching at all wrestling at this time. So Sean's going to be enlightening me a lot on like, what the fuck am I watching type shit. So on to the next match. We have the WWE Divas title match between Eve Torres and our champion Alicia Fox, who is a WWE Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I did not know at this point in time is when her career really took off. I thought she came around more when the Bella Twins came into the scene, because that's when I remember seeing her. But I didn't know she was like at this time in the Divas title mix, and also looks pretty good wrestler. I was impressed with her. Her whole just demeanor and the way she went about her gimmick in this match. But what are your thoughts on Miss Alicia Fox, Sean?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you here, honestly.
Woo! Let me hear it.
At this time, Alicia Fox, watching this match, it seemed her wrestling, if I'm saying this correctly, her wrestling was good. Her character seemed corny to me. It was very.
I was gonna ask you. I didn't understand it. It was like, why is she so mad?
It like, what is the point? And it was like that all the time. It's not just this match. She was like that all the time.
No.
Like,
so we're doing the angry black woman gimmick, Vince. Really, that's what we're doing.
The wrestling is fine. It's not anything spectacular, but the gimmick was just trash. Everything seemed weird when she was acting and doing stuff, and the selling was aggressive and man. Not feeling Alicia Fox. This whole match was, mid. Like, she shines a little bit in some spots, but other than that, it was kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not about to put this match over as match of the night, and I hope that's not being conveyed. But I'm just saying, like, when I saw the two people come out, and I was just like, oh, this is typically my smoking match if I was watching this live. But like I said, if I had to sit there and watch that, it wasn't a terrible match. I'm not going to say it was mid. I'd say it was like a notch above it, a couple notches maybe even. Just from what I expected to see and what I actually saw. But to your point, I wasn't outside yet, so I can't really speak on behalf. This is a very small sample size of Alicia Fox outside of when I start watching more on the regular. And she goes to her things as far as her personal battles and stuff, and then just disappearing from the product completely and becoming a Hall of Famer. So that was that match. Alicia Fox retains. Not a lot to really talk about here. As far as this match, it was just more filler. And speaking of filler, we get a we get one of the worst acting promos I've seen in my watchbacks here. We get the all-American, un-American Jack Swagger talking to his mom on the phone in fashion in which that I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk on the phone like this.
Some general hospital acting.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna be disrespectful to General Hospital. This is like after school special movie you watch in school that you would rather not watch, but this is the teacher has to show you this, and this terrible acting from this adults that are like C-level actors, and they can't be in the spaces of even a General Hospital or Days of Our Lives, anything like that. The man literally does not pause at all to let the quote-unquote other person talk back on the phone, which is his mom. So, that being said, Jack Swagger in this moment of time, questions, bro. I didn't understand. I've never wanted to turn off nostalgia watching so bad in this point. So until I saw this, I was just like, bro, I gotta wash my eyes and ears out because this doesn't make any sense for him to have held the illustrious Big Gold, going after it again, thinking he has a right to be getting title matches. So help me out, bro. Why was Jack Swagger at this time?
Jack Swagger was Jack Swagger because he's the all-American that was the world heavyweight champion. And he had a whole 3 months as world heavyweight champion and a half. It's like 3.5.
Probably the longest 3 months for anybody watching this shit on TV.
And he won it by a bullshit, I would say. One of the worst ladder matches I have seen was the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26. And he cashed in on Chris Jericho to win this title.
Oh, how ironic.
That is... Thank you. The creator of the damn match gets cashed in on by arguably the worst winner, in my opinion, of the briefcase.
And then fast forward to now, and they're in the most drawn out stable as far as why are we still doing this in AEW, especially his gimmick. I fucking can't stand this whole I have a hat or whatever the fuck he be saying.
It's the best gimmick he's
Where's
had.
my hat?
It's the best.
True,
gimmick
I'll give you that.
had.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. Like, I'd rather see that like half brain dimwit shit that they got him doing on AEW is more of a sellable gimmick than trying to sell me this dude as being the next Hulk Hogan of your company, basically, with this whole I'm gonna wear a wrestling singlet and go out here and be like Kurt Angle, but I'm also going to be super American. And then there's a moment in time I remember seeing clips like Dutch Mantell is his manager. I don't know if that happens after this or before it was happening.
That's 3 years later. That's like 3 years later. So that's like 20.
Oh, so he's still around for another 3 years in the WWE?
Yeah,
Oh
I forget what they're called. They're the something Americans. But yeah, it's him and Dutch Mantell in like 2012 or 2013. And he comes back as his manager. It's some trash shit as well. So nothing really there, honestly.
They're probably trying to get heat on him because Dutch Mantell is a heat magnet. Because he be saying some crazy shit.
He does, absolutely.
Yeah.
And having that with Jack Swagger just created stupid heat, and it was pretty trash. And that's where eventually the We the People, the real American. So he's been the all-American. He's been the I think something Americans with Dutch Mantell, and then he was the real American for We the People. Like, he's had some of the most...
That was his last gimmick, yeah.
Some of the most trash shit ever, bro. I'm telling you.
Hey, somebody must have hated him in the back because that's not even trying. That's some trash. But we'll get more into Jack Swagger here in a little bit. But on to the next match, which does not concern Jack Swagger. We actually got like a little flash into the future / past here. We get the Usos before they was down since day one-ish in the Uso penitentiary. These dudes were fresh out of the Indies, looking very Samoan, leaning heavy into the Samoa gimmick. So heavy they had their cousin Tamina come out with them. as their manager, and they're going against the unified tag team champions. This is a tag team championship match, people. Sorry to not say that, but the Hart Dynasty with the legend now, Natalya, walking them down, and you got the Hart Dynasty at the time was Tyson Kidd, who was no longer an active wrestler due to health reasons, and David Hart Smith, Davey Boy's son. Again, I know limited stuff about the Hart Dynasty. I know Tyson Kidd had some sort of, I think it was a head or neck injury to stop him from being able to wrestle again. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But tell me about these two, the Hart Dynasty. I'm curious because they look like they could have kept the Hart gimmick going. We just gonna wrestle you to death, and you gonna hate us. We're not gonna be flashy. We just gonna wrestle. We from the dungeon.
Tyson Kidd was arguably one of the best what ifs of injuries, honestly, with the WWE at this time. That dude, it was in the injury, it was a spinal cord injury. If I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken. And it was from a Samoa Joe muscle buster. Interesting. It was on a dark match out of everything. So wow. At least it wasn't a live broadcasted, injury, which would have been very unfortunate. But yeah, it was from a dark match muscle buster from Samoa Joe, injured his spinal cord, pretty much took him out from the wrestling game. And he was an amazing wrestler, man. I can tell. Yeah, man. Coming from the dungeon, him and Davey Boy Smith, they carried on the Hart wrestling. They did Hart wrestling, but new age style. They did it with the speed, the quickness, the intensity. Now, with the technicality of the Hart, dungeon style of wrestling, it was the perfect mix. And it's like I said, one of the biggest what ifs, man. It sucks, honestly.
I could imagine. Now, as far as Tyson Kidd and what you thought he could have been, what did you let's say that never happens. What's the ceiling for him? Does he become a solo guy? You think he branches away from David Hart Smith? Because I know, doesn't he still wrestle on the indies? David Hart Smith, if I remember correctly, right?
I think so. I haven't really watched David Hart Smith, much, but yeah.
Yeah, understandably so. He's kind of no disrespect to Jim the Anvil and the Hart Foundation. Jim the Anvil, nobody was there. Nobody was buying tickets to see Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Bret Hart was the selling point of that tag team. No shot at the Anvil, but
yeah,
it wasn't a lot of people buying Anvil gear. That's all I'll say. But with that said, I could tell that Tyson Kidd was he was highly regarded as far as he could have been the next best thing in this moment of time. You kind of see the flashes, but sad to hear. I always hate hearing shit like that, especially when you see some potential in a superstar.
And it wasn't even just potential. He was a good wrestler. It's not even like he didn't achieve anything. I mean, dude had championships in MLW. He held tag team championships three times, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he's won awards at Canadian Hall of Fame for wrestling.
Oh wow,
yeah,
okay. So he did. He has a pedigree.
He has accolades. Yeah, man. He has accolades. He just could have expanded upon those a lot more had that injury not happened.
Understand. The match with them and the Usos, pretty exciting tag team match. I see why Roman saved these dudes 10 years later, or at least 8 years later, I'd say. I think the Usos, and they, as we were reminded recently in a Bloodline promo, they would have been dead in the water. They would have never got to the popularity that they are currently sitting in right this moment in the current product with the Bloodline feud and all that stuff, and where it's about to go with the Civil War in the family. And then probably after that, and they're not saying this for nothing, they really believe in Jey Uso being that dude when Roman eventually goes off to follow in Dwayne's footsteps and become a Hollywood star, if Hollywood will have him. So yeah, you see it, but this shit, they would have never scratched out of the mid card if they never changed it up. And I mean, and this isn't what they are before Roman pulls them up, because I like the Usos even when before they became Bloodline. I'm sure you enjoyed them too, but
yeah, absolutely.
I never saw them becoming what they are now. I'll say that. So yeah, it's cool to see the early genesis of the Usos and what they are at this point, what they become. But yes, the Hart Foundation ended up retaining. David Hart Smith gets, I believe, Jimmy to tap, and they retain. And yeah, this is a decent tag match. It wasn't too exciting, like too much exciting, but it wasn't bad either.
Yeah, pretty decent. I like it.
Yeah, not bad at all. And as we move on, back to beating up on the dead horse here, we got the World Heavyweight title match. The All-American, Un-American, American, we the people, I guess, Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger. Versus the legend, the Hall of Famer, the guy who's still wrestling to this day, Rey Mysterio Jr. An injured Rey Mysterio Jr.
An injured one. Yep.
Yes. Selling it heavily, that ankle. That Jack Swagger. Also, you DOA when they throw an ankle lock gimmick on you as being the best and only thing you can do. That just tells you all you need to know. No offense to Kurt, because Kurt Angle's a goddamn legend.
He revolutionized.
And he just threw that in there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll say he made it cool after Ken Shamrock brought it to wrestling, pro wrestling at least. So anytime they throw that gimmick on somebody, that means like, here, we don't know what else to do with you. Make them do fucking ankle locks on people. Because that shit will get over. At least you will hope. So that's how Rey is hobbled in this match, because Jack Swagger held an ankle lock for an extremely long period of time on a SmackDown before this pay-per-view, and we see the clips of it. Mm-hmm. We also get some clips in that before that awful promo I was speaking about earlier with his mom of his dad getting his ass whooped and fed to Kane, basically. So this is doing the heel shit, but now Jack Swagger, who lost his title a month ago in this timeline to Rey in a Fatal 4-Way match at Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view at the time. And now it's his rematch clause. Like it's WBC boxing, and he's going after WBC heavyweight title because it's boxing and you get a rematch clause. So yeah, this obviously goes away from wrestling. But what were your thoughts on these rematch clauses? And did they happen a lot in this era?
Shit, yeah, they happened a lot. It was
terrible.
Yeah, it really was. Rematch clauses are one of like the fucking plagues of like 2010s, early 2000s, 2010s wrestling, dude. Like, if we just saw a really good fucking match from somebody and two wrestlers, why do I want to watch it immediately a month later?
I wholeheartedly agree.
Like I get if it's a feud and things happen during the match, but like, nah, man, like straight up, if it was a good ass match or something, or you just got beat and lost your title, why do you need a rematch clause a month later? Get back in fucking line like everybody's doing now. Bring up the next.
I agree.
Yeah, I hate rematch clauses to a fucking burning passion.
So much so, like I get nervous when WrestleMania or Backlash, whatever they want to call it, WrestleMania Backlash comes up, because I'm just like, I don't want to see the same match I just saw at WrestleMania. Progress this shit along, man.
I think other than
what's happening here.
Yeah, other than last year, I think the last few ones were the exact same match card, damn near.
Absolutely, and that's why I respect these changes recently, because that old shit, the let's wrestle 3 or 4 times and then move on, that's the easy way to get your eyes wandering on other products and other things in those time slots. So I'm glad that they're moving away from that, but I can only imagine having to see this shit and they keep spoon feeding it to you as if you want to see it. That had to be rough. But so to get to the match, I called Jack Swagger in my notes a charisma vacuum. He has no charisma. That stupid look he has on his face during the entire match, I'm just like, this is doing nothing for me. He looks so confused all the time. I get it, it's part of the heel persona and they just lean into it. It just does nothing for me. It doesn't make me want me to hate him as a heel. It just gives him extra saucy, spicy, go away heat with me. Like heartburn-esque. Like, where's the I forget the heartburn medicine or some Pepto or something. Some Pepto. Like, yeah, give me some Gas X. Like, goddamn, get this Jack Swagger out of me. This shit is terrible. Fuck this shit. But yeah, and just constant, like the notes in this match was just ripping to shred. The whole just presentation of Jack Swagger, why this was happening, why they put a belt on this man. But to your point, this is the era of WWE trying to put the young guard on, to give the younger guys a shot and pair them with veterans to try to get them over, which is obvious here with the Ray being set up with him. And the month before that, the Fatal 4-Way match was Ray, CM Punk in a mask, and Big Show. So they're trying to put him around a lot of good workers to try to get him in a better light. But these eyes wasn't buying any of that shit.
Oh,
man.
hell no. Absolutely not. That shit was smoke and mirrors. And that there's a reason 3 months went by and they made him drop his title.
Yeah, and then also there's spots in this match, like a couple different times. He almost kills Rey Mysterio, like just in just lazy type of movement type shit. So I was just like, not only is he a terrible character, he has a terrible gimmick, he doesn't sell it, and he's an unsafe worker for the most part. I'm like, what? There's somebody else that they could have brought a Roman early or something. Like, ain't he done playing at Georgia Tech by now? Like what the fuck is going on in WWE? So these reasons made it hard for me. Like when I would be like, oh, let me see what's happening on Raw, and I peek in and see shit like this weird shit. I just wasn't for me at the time, man. Was not holding my attention. But what's your overall thoughts on this match before I get done burying it, basically?
I hate it. I'm gonna say this because it's a Rey Mysterio match as well. But man, this was a kind of a disappointing pile of dog shit, in my opinion. The ending was pretty generic. Jack Swagger's botches was pretty shit.
It's like 3 of them.
The all-American, un-American, American gimmick is just fucking trash, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I'm just getting heated at Jack Swagger. I'll try to calm down, but my God, man. Yeah, bad. Turn it off. Probably prematurely, I'm going to say that. Worst match of the night, honestly.
Yeah, considering, like, you got Rey Mysterio in this match. Like, it shouldn't be that bad, but he just makes it worse. Like, I'm just watching it back right now as we record, and there he is, trotting around the ring with his arms in there. Like, no thank you. Yeah, so match is over. It was a very meh match to me, as well as Sean, it sounds like. Kane comes in at the end of it after Ray wins. Ray does win this match and beats Jack Swagger. But Kane comes in. Ray can have no peace ever. And this is just more to that timeline of Ray not having any peace. And Kane comes in and cashes in. Rey Mysterio champion for like a month, maybe. So that was the end of this match. Just more Rey Mysterio burial. Like this, the favorite pastimes of WWE. The Big Four and Rey Mysterio getting beat up and not having any peace. But any thoughts before we move on to the next one, bro?
Not really much thoughts to have on that. I mean, what was it? A 56-second match, technically?
Yeah, you know how the cash-ins go. It's rare they go past that 2-minute mark just because of the cash-in.
Yeah, man.
So
That's not really much to say about that. And it's more on my end because I just don't fuck with Kane in this era. And seeing him, just disappointing. Disappointing twice in one pay-per-view by Kane. Mm-hmm. That's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and like I said, I don't really like I can see Kane and kind of why they put him in this spot, but it's gonna hit a lot harder with you because you were watching it and you were a kid and you have no understanding of why Kane was in this spot. So I'm just using my nostalgia eyes from the Kane I've known over his career, not in one in which I was watching this. So it's an interesting little dichotomy there. Next we get a Jericho and Edge promo. Edge was watching this shit show and acted like he actually enjoyed it. Jericho walks up on him. They start exchanging, talking shit about who's gonna win this Money in the Bank, the Raw one that's coming up. That's pretty much it. Typical promo, not too much special, not bad or terrible either, so not a lot to really talk about. Moving on to match number 5 of the card. We now have Kelly going against Layla of Lay Cool, co-champion of the women's title. This is a championship match. So first, why are they co-champions, Sean? Explain that to me, please, because I had no idea. Like, are they like a tag team?
Yeah, like cool. Yeah, absolutely. They're a
okay.
They're a tag team. Yeah.
So why do they both get women's titles?
Well, they're inseparable. So if one wins it, the other one. But but legitimately, I was not interested in that at the time. So I have no clue. There might be some technicality. They both won the shit. I don't fucking know.
I got you. And we're not gonna spend too much time on it.
No, there's not, because I mean, honestly, the match is, in my opinion, this match is better than the Alicia Fox match. The wrestling is a little better. The acting is a little better. What happens is a little more entertaining. I rated
That's fair. I get where you're coming from. I guess like why I put that Alicia Fox match over so tough, because I was expecting nothing from it, and that's why like I was like, all right, this isn't terrible. And this match, it kind of hit the same kind of chords with me as that match. It wasn't anything extra impressive. It wasn't anything really to extra talk like to shit on, so to speak. So it was like this like falls into that little bit above mid mark for me as well.
I'll say that because the ending was kind of garbage. It looked like it wasn't supposed to. It looked like it was supposed to happen that way, but they just didn't do it pretty cleanly. So I can say the match, it would have been a little better if the ending wasn't so bad. But yeah.
Fair. Very fair. So with that being said, Layla wins, retains. They have a weird interaction. Matt Striker on commentaries having weird like cuddle, kiss talk with them. I was just like, okay, I'm not watching SmackDown to find out what that was about.
Okay, yeah, let's just take a second. Matt Striker on commentary is probably one of the worst things I've ever heard in wrestling. If you
not built for that.
If you heard the reactions and comments he was making the whole night, dear God, it was terrible. Like, I forget some of the shit he was saying in like accents and then about the women and stuff. I'm just like, dude, get this guy. I would have rather had Puppies era Lawler on commentary than this shit, dude. Like, this was bad.
That's saying a lot.
That's bad. Yeah, bro. Like this was pretty bad.
It's Puppies era, Jerry Lawler. Even when I was a kid, I was just like, bro, like you're a grown man. You see boobs all day. You should be. I'm a kid. I should be excited. I'm not acting like you are, sir. You need to restrain yourself before you get arrested. Or some sort of case. Right, man. But hey, Jerry loved the Divas era or the Attitude era. That's all I'll say there. Shout out to Cat. But anyways, next, moving on. The last known "Don't try this at home" commercial is played on this pay-per-view. I believe this is the last one. I remember seeing this, and I thought this was the most dramatic of them, like that I've ever seen. Like just hearing the wrestlers talking, and I got this. I can't feel my legs some nights when I go to sleep. I'm
I've
just
had
like,
surgery on my knees 5 times. Like,
right. Surgery on my knees 5 times.
Bro, like,
counting.
When I feel like it was like a desperate attempt at the last known, just please don't do this. And then they saw people were just still doing the shit. And they're just like, fuck it. We're not even going to try anymore. And they just stopped altogether.
Yeah, because they realize there's dumber shit happening out there that people are trying to get on and get blow up on social media. So they just gave up. And I thought that shit is hilarious. Like, WWE just straight like Homer Simpson gift into the bush and was just like, we told y'all, we done.
I think when they saw kids eating Tide Pods and swallowing spoonfuls of cinnamon, they're just like, you know what? It's all good. I mean, what is a super kick gonna do versus drinking bleach and fucking laundry chemicals? Like,
if we can't stop them from doing that dumb shit, we're not wasting any more resources on telling them not to jump off of a fucking house.
And these commercials cost $250,000 an episode. We got to cut that shit. Yeah.
Just to hear Ray say, I've had 5 knee surgeries. 5 surgeries on my knees.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. All right, what we got?
I had to put that shit over. That was hilarious to me because because the new probably don't show that shit at all.
Oh,
you'll see nothing about that.
They don't care about that shit.
I forgot they existed, and I was thinking about like, yeah, they used to play these before everything. Like anytime you would buy like a WWE DVD or anything like that, please, for the love of God, Don't try this at home.
You know, the one image that's burned into my brain, I don't know if you saw it. I think it was Hardcore Holly or John Cena, but he had this giant ass gash across his back from a table spot. Looked nasty as hell. That shit was burned into my, and then Cena falling over the rope at the Royal Rumble and, you know, like breaking his leg. That shit was like burned into my memory. I still did it, but, you know, I remembered that if anything happened. So
the commercials didn't work.
No, fuck no, they didn't work. I was fully aware of them and still did it. So,
as 90% of children across America did, and still do today, I'm sure.
Oh God, yes.
But moving from this, the one of the greatest commercials that WWE shot on a regular basis to one of the greatest Money in the Bank matches I never knew about. The Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. Listen to this card, people. You got Edge a year away from retirement. Jericho, Y2J still. This is before it becomes before the Friendship Festival and stuff and all that kind of stuff. The Festival of Friendship, Jericho that I saw when I started watching again. Versus Reptilian Randy, as I called him at this moment in time, Randy Orton, because he had no hair on his body at all. Basically, it looked like he looked like he looked like the Viper for real. U.S. champion, as mentioned earlier, The Miz, the best anchor of a Money in the Bank ladder match that I've seen, Mark Henry. Surprisingly, I didn't expect that from him. My shameful white cousin Ted Jr., who we don't talk about because of things he did and scumbag shit. So fuck you, Ted. Family disowned your ass. John Morrison, love his entrance, love the little slow motion. How to put that over. And Evan Bourne, who, as like I've been telling everybody, I hadn't seen this guy's matches outside of that crazy RKO that's usually number 2 or 3 on their RKO, the crazy RKO countdowns that you see on YouTube or WWE.com.
Man.
So, yeah, people, what a fucking card. And the beautiful thing about it is it does not disappoint. They hit all, and the thing about Money in the Bank matches or ladder matches in general, at least for me, it's hard to suspend belief when you got this thing just hanging in the middle of the ring and all of these ladders and all of these dudes not worrying about climbing it until a certain point in the match, or when they do, they're trying to climb it when there's 4 people standing in the ring. So I say that to say ladder matches aren't my favorite match for that reason, because it takes a really good one for me to believe like, oh damn, he could have had that, but he had to do this. Or it's usually like, man, come on now, you're fucking both arms are on that thing, you could hang off of it and make it happen. Like, so that's the number one thing that stuck out before I get into the minutia of the match, is my belief was suspended. I believed what I was seeing. They made me believe that it was very hard to get to this briefcase because of the men in the ring. But tell me your initial takeaway from this Money in the Bank match.
Fire across the board. Absolutely. Okay, except White DiBase. Fire across the board. Orton and Edge, classic. Miz, already U.S. champion. I like the Miz. People, probably hate on him. The Miz is the shit, if we're being honest. And we can go over the Miz's career another day. But if we compare it to a lot of y'all's favorite wrestlers, y'all gonna be embarrassed. Mark Henry, love Mark Henry's work. Morrison, I love Morrison. Johnny Elite, Johnny Drip. I was in a Wrestle Pierce Discord one day, and they said he should enter the G1 Climax and enter as Johnny Climax. So every time I think of John Morrison, I call him Johnny Climax.
Sounds like a name that should be used in the Vivid.
They even said, we're like, bro, he should enter the G1 as Johnny Climax. That shit would be amazing. And then
Johnny Climax.
It's Jericho. Everybody knows Jericho. Oh god, this shit's funny. And then Evan Bourne, which I know him as Matt Sydal.
Let's get into it. Let's start right there. Tell the people about Evan Bourne.
Evan Bourne was it. So I'll put it to you like this. By the time you saw Evan Bourne on WWE television, he was already wrestling for 7 or 8 years. Before Evan Bourne went to WWE, he was, TNA, Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, places like that. You know how like Sami Zayn and them followed that, and like PWG and Ring of Honor and all that. He was independent wrestling to the core. Evan Bourne was one of, not the first, but like a good example of one of the indie type wrestlers that WWE started signing on closer and closer to the 2010s, 2020s, and things like that. You didn't see many of Evan Bournes around this time, other than people that came up, within the WWE system. So great wrestler, man. And if you don't know, I'll stop there, getting to his WWE stuff. I won't go past that. But very accomplished before he got to WWE, which you can kind of see in his wrestling if you ever watched a full Evan Bourne match.
Got it. This is my first exposure to him. It looked like the company thought highly of him based on how this match was booked and the certain spots he got to do and shit versus others. So I was like, they had to been real high on this kid. If the stuff he was doing, there was some real dope ass spots that he did in this match. We'll get into it here as we kind of build through the match, but I want to start it as Mark Henry's theme music. Because I feel like this was like peak Mark Henry. Like we've been waiting for this Mark Henry since like the late 90s. Like just an ass whooping, like believable that this dude really is the strongest man in the world. Because look at him, and he's not, this dumb sexual chocolate shit has been put to bed, and I'm just here to whoop ass. His theme song, somebody gonna get their ass kicked. I need that. That needs to be when I walk out of the house and get in my car. That needs to be playing at all times. Like have a it's on repeat everywhere I go. Somebody go get their
So
ass
there's good wrestling themes, and then there's good songs that are wrestling themes.
Right.
Mark Henry's theme, that shit. Have you seen the clip of 3-6 Mafia performing on SmackDown live?
No, I think I've seen it here and there, just like on Twitter and shit. Like there's people making fun of like that kind of stuff, but I didn't know that Mark Henry was is that 3-6 on the theme song?
I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that's 3-6.
It kind of sounds like Juicy and Paul.
Let me double check that. So, but if I'm not mistaken, that is 3-6 on it. And you can go look up a video of them performing on UPN. Back when UPN, SmackDown was on UPN.
Shout out to UPN.
My dad called it Underpaid Negroes because it had all the black shows on it.
Absolutely what UPN was. Good job, Dad. That's absolutely what UPN was. All the shows that the other networks didn't want is what UPN was, but there was the shows I was watching. I watched the Wayans Brothers, The Parenthood, Homeboys, and Outer Space for them 10 episodes they got. All that shit. So yes. And also WWE SmackDown. As a secondary show for them because USA was WWE through and through. They wanted another place to play their product. Why not the Underpaid Negro Network, aka UPN? So yes,
and just to confirm,
UPN.
that is 3-6 Mafia.
Good shit. And also, I kind of once I thought about the theme, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a 3-6 song. So who gets 3-6 as like to do their fucking theme music? That tells you where Mark Henry was at this point in time. I think we're a couple years away from the fake out retirement as well. That's what he's most known for.
Yeah.
So I think we're a couple years away from that. But you see the zeitgeist of what Mark Henry is and kind of what he should be known for. And like I said, people were waiting for this for a long time for him to kind of find this spot and get it all, everything, psychology, breath, the movements, the moves, what you should be doing, what you should never do in the ring. It took a while for that to come together for him, but very happy to see it. Love Mark Henry. Gotta hold it down for my big brothers. Being a chubby kid growing up, so gotta respect that. Now I didn't mention who my shameful cousin Ted came out with. He came out with fucking Maurice. So can we talk about it, Sean? And they mentioned like Maurice was an active wrestler at this time. She had been a Divas champion and a women's champion before this point. So she just went back to being a valet. I thought that was a little strange, but hey, maybe because I know we're doing the whole Ted DiBiase gimmick and he's the $1 Million Man's son. So I'm like, did he buy her? Like, what the fuck is like? Because I know Uncle Ted used to love to buy bitches, boy. He loved to buy bitches back in the day. So I'm like, so is he letting his son kind of try to get that rub? But from what you can remember, tell me about like why Maurice is like in this position. Like, did he buy her? They try to get him over.
Arm candy to get over. A lot of times WWE thought back in the day, if you can have, a fine ass woman on your arm, people gonna get it, drawn to you. You're gonna go.
It's typical.
And walk out order, son. You're gonna get over, type shit. Like, typical shit. And I think even at this time, funny enough, I think her and The Miz are actually in a relationship still.
That tracks. They probably dating. They probably just like started dating.
Because if you remember them talking about it, like he's tried hollering at her during. I think she won the Diva Search, or like she was a part of the Diva Search or something like that. So yeah, pretty funny that he came out with her. Why? Not too informed on that. Apparently, it didn't work out anyway. So who gives a shit?
Exactly. Very good point to cap on that. As far as things that we see in this match, we get a couple weird botches. John Morrison gets taken out by a ladder at one point, and Matt Striker puts the ladder over, calling the ladder the X Factor. Like John Morrison that like fell back and then like hit a ladder and then sold the hit of fall into the ladder and just fell out. It was just fucking hilarious, like what he said. Like he said, the ladders are the X Factor. Like, no shit, it's a fucking ladder match with nothing but like ladders everywhere.
You quite literally have to use the ladder. Like, that's a requirement, my nigga. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Right. The name of the pay-per-view is Money in the Bank. Like, what? Like, yes, it's ladders everywhere.
The Money in the Bank ladder match. The ladder is the X Factor. No shit, bro.
So many ladders, they're attacking people. I get it. I thought that shit was hilarious. It just kind of just was like, huh? Like, who says that? But I get it. I'm sure Vince was in his ear like, put over the ladders, damn it. Did you just see what happened to Morrison? So you get, like I said, we kind of talked about Mark Henry. I love when people torpedo ladders at each other, with like Mark Henry was early in this match. Love seeing people just throw ladders like Legos at people.
Throw ladder like really Nash did Ray.
Oh yeah, love it.
Torpedo,
love it. So Mark Henry's doing that. He does it a couple times, and he gets his own receipt, I believe, from Jericho on the outside. He gets smacked in the face, kind of lays around from there. We don't see a ton of him from there outside of just him being the anchor on big spots in the ring for the most part. Huge, wild spots on the ladder with multiple dudes, paws, like just everywhere. And the reason I bring that up is because usually when you get like 3 and 4 dudes like all trying to climb the ladder at the same time, it looks clunky. And this is where I get into like, it's hard to tell me that these guys are all struggling to get this ladder, because one person could easily just be on some scam shit and just scramble up there, be like, I won, bye, see y'all niggas later. So I'm out. Like, you don't see any of that, but they made these spots believable, and this is where I'm talking about those spots becoming believable. So at one point in time, when these 4 dudes are on the ladder, Edge and Randy Orton throw Ted DiBiase out the ring, like literally the garbage he is. He's laid on a ladder, and the way the ladders are propped up, like it's like kind of like sitting, like one end is folded up and it's sitting on an open ladder one end, and then the other end sitting on a rope, so it's like a bridge, so to speak. And DiBiase's laying on it, and these dudes just literally just push him out the ring like it's fucking Wednesday morning garbage day. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That shit was hilarious. I love seeing it. And it looked like not a rough bump, but, he hit a little harder than I probably wanted to.
Yeah, he sold it by slapping the ground real hard. I thought the same thing. It sounded worse than what it was by appearance. Says the guy that's not falling out of the ring.
Not a wrestler.
Yeah, right. He sold it pretty well. Like, from there, I love the spot where you see Morrison and Jericho are on the ladder, and Morrison literally slaps Jericho's hand like he's a little kid touching something that he shouldn't be touching. I'm like, I've never seen that spot in a ladder match. That is so fucking smart. You should be slapping these dudes' hands if they're trying to stay on the ladder. Like, if you slapping somebody's hand hard as fuck, you just, pow, shit, everybody, that shit hurt. And that makes you defenseless, and you can start whooping motherfuckers' ass from there. So, bought that. That's what I'm talking about. Like, they did rational things somebody would do in a situation like that. It wouldn't just be, let's do working punches and that type of shit. No, somebody's gonna like do little grimy shit to get this ladder, like slap your hand or smash it on the ladder. So that really popped me. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And then Evan Bourne at a point in time, he's like fighting on the ladder with Jericho. He should, and I thought, I was like, oh, he should be able to grab that fucking briefcase right there, but he doesn't, which is cool. I'm not gonna rip that to shreds. And then we get some great shit from there when Jericho's trying to grab it. This is what I'm talking about, suspension of belief. By Evan Bourne trying to grab it, it's like swinging back and forth, and it's just Jericho up there. So I can get the difficulty in trying to like balance yourself, because dads, husbands out there sniffing others.
Yeah,
we've all been on ladders, and we know, like, especially if you're on at least a 6 foot one, like it's hard to like try to keep your body balanced and reaching over with one arm by keeping your other arm stable on the ladder and trying to grab something or do something like drill or nail something. That's hard to do. So trying to grab that briefcase as it swings, I saw the difficulty in that. I thought like smart spot for Jericho to be like, I just can't get it. Oh shit. Oh fuck. that was fun. But then we get probably one of the best ending sequences of Money in the Bank matches that I've seen, and I'm always ready to be proven wrong if somebody can tell me one is in a better fashion. But we basically get from there, from Jericho trying to grab the ladder, then he starts fighting Edge, and then RKO out of nowhere by Randy Orton, like basically pulls Jericho off the ladder to RKO him. Very impressive. Never seen an RKO like that off a ladder. Fucking dope. From there we get a Randy knocking Edge then off the ladder in a very ugly bump, I thought, onto a bunch of other ladders. And then we get The Miz knocking him off, and The Miz becoming, as we get to see, about to be one of the, like, about to be on his like dream run here soon, because he's about to get some crazy matches and some crazy wins that nobody talks about. But this is the zeitgeist of it, to the point where the man, after he wins, goes and grabs the microphone and cuts a promo. And everybody on commentary is like, we're never going to hear the end of this. I'm like, no, you're not. Even to this day, we still hear about this run when he's on Miz TV getting his ass whooped by somebody. But yeah, to your point, Sean, this is a good point good time to bring up the Miz run and why people should take his pedigree in the WWE more seriously than when you look at what he's been doing the last 3-4 years, which has been basically kind of like the joke, putting people over, getting his ass whooped, being a loudmouth, and just people whooping his ass. So educate the people on who Mike the Miz was before who it became today.
Oh, Miz started out, which a lot of wrestlers, even in the locker room, were disrespecting Miz because he came from reality television. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest Miz come-up stories, is he came from the real world, wanted to do wrestling, came into wrestling, and actually was successful, and then better than a lot of people that, came up in fucking, indies for years, spent 10 years on the indies and all that shit. Came through Tough Enough, out of all things. And with a couple, developmental, I think he went through, what was WWE's developmental back in the early 2000s? OVW.
FCW. FCW.
Well, they changed.
OVW as well. OVW when Cornette.
Yeah.
And then,
it was, I think he went through OVW at the time. It was OVW.
That tracks.
When The Miz did it, I think it was OVW. And then, because he started off, I don't know if you remember, Miz used to host, I think it was SmackDown. He used to be in the crowds.
Yeah,
the
I
mics
remember
and shit like that.
Yep,
Yeah,
I remember
bro.
that.
Miz used to be a fucking host after he did Tough Enough, so he wasn't even a wrestler. And then they finally gave him the wrestling gimmick is fucking the long jorts and the mohawk and the gloves and shit.
Yeah,
Looked terrible, dude. Like it looked terrible. But
yeah,
eventually,
he overcame a lot, man.
A whole
say
lot,
the least.
a whole lot, and a lot of trash looks. Props to the Miz, man. Props to the Miz.
Yeah, you got. That's why we talk about greatness. We were talking about Drew McIntyre being poised for greatness, even though he got what some people could be considered like a Curse of the Bambino type deal put on him, with Vince saying he's the next guy up. But I think he's finally at that point. And to your point with Miz, it took the Miz a very long time to battle through all of those things and show and prove who he is. So yeah, so that's the Raw Money in the Bank match. Fair to say, Sean and I's most favorite match of the card, but not the main event. As we get into the final match, which is, as we were talking about earlier, Sheamus, who's the champ, versus Big Match John in a fucking steel cage match. And I say it in that fashion, a fucking steel cage match.
Steel cage.
Because steel cage matches, this is going to sound bad, they're not what they're cracked up to be, at least in WWE. And the reason I say that is because Hell in a Cell steals that spotlight from what a steel cage match should be. Because Hell in a Cells are known to be brutal. They're supposed to be brutal. It's harder to escape out of a Hell in a Cell because it's a cell, it's not a cage. And this match is a great example of why I'm not a big fan of cage matches. There's a certain point in this match where it seems like John Cena and Sheamus are racing to get out. Who's going to get out first? Which is how the match ends, basically, to bury the lead. But I just don't like cage matches like this. Like, and this is like when people ask me, like, well, what's your favorite cage matches, BA? I got to think about stuff like, and it sound like I guess you can call me, I'm a Bret Hart mark from back in the day. Owen and Bret at SummerSlam 94. That fucking cage match was like an hour long. And it was like two matches within itself. It was like two different matches that happened in that match. Like, so when you show me that kind of shit, and then you give me like the chicken heel shit and everybody's trying to race out of the ring. And I get why, particularly in this match. I'm not going to say like they did this just because there's a bunch of outside things that we're going to get into around why they're trying to escape the match like this. It's just not good wrestling to me. Not for me, brother.
Doesn't work for me, brother.
Does not work for me at all. Like, do you feel the same as me, Sean, or are you a steel cage advocate?
It's both. It's both. I'm a steel cage advocate, but WWE doesn't do them right.
At all. It's awful. They've never done them right, in my opinion.
Exactly.
For the most part.
I explained it to my wife how you could win a steel cage match, and she was like, well, why the fuck would you open the door and just walk out? that doesn't make sense. Like, wait, why would you fight this whole time? Why wouldn't you just try to just hop out of the cage? And it's just like, yeah, kind of makes sense, because even with the suspension of disbelief, that's the way to win the match. Like, it's not like, oh, you're just available to hop out of the cage, and if it happens, it happens. Literally, they entice you to win the match by walking out of the cage or going over it. Why the fuck is that in there? The whole point of the steel cage match is so someone can't run, you can't go to a top rope, you can't hop to the outside. You literally got to face the other person in the ring. Like, that's it. Hell in a Cell should be expanded upon that, because you can go out of the cell, on top of the cell, on the side skirts of the cell, all that shit. It should be two totally different things, but to your point, it steals it for some reason, and they just trashed the whole concept of cage matches.
I agree. And I feel like WCW NWA product has always gotten that right. I feel like those cage matches, I mean, albeit away from the Vince Russo era and all that kind of stuff, more old school NWA leading into the early 90s of WCW, those cage matches are legendary. Like Wrestle Wars and all that shit, bro. Like that's what made me. Those types of matches made me fall in love with wrestling. Like Wrestle War '92 specifically, which we will definitely cover at a later date. Because that's fucking fire pay-per-view. But like I said, they spoiled my viewing pleasure of cage matches because I was used to that kind of stuff. It just straight brutality. And albeit I get it, WWE is not like that type of product, but y'all in the cage, man, y'all should be whooping each other's asses. But you don't see a lot of that. But like I said, with this particular match, there's a big race to get out because of a certain rogue group that has infiltrated the WWE for the first time. And I say the first time because you see them again later on in the future in a different form, but we get this is the Nexus timeline going on at this point in time. This is like one of the only times I peeked in on wrestling during this time frame. I remember I was living in my first apartment out in Lakewood, having some debaucherous things done to me at the time, and I cut on my television, and it's 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and Raw's on, or maybe it's the end of Raw, and I see a bunch of random dudes in black t-shirts with ends on them beating the shit out of John Cena. I'm like, what the fuck? And they start ripping the ring apart. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, it definitely made me want to watch again, and I stopped watching again after that. I did watch the following. I'm like, oh shit, is wrestling back? And I was just like, nah, I'm cool. But that did catch my attention, seeing like the whole ring getting destroyed by these dudes, and of all people, John Cena. Like y'all beat the shit out of him. Like, so tell me about Sean in 2010 seeing the Nexus on his TV for the first time.
That revitalized something in me a little bit with wrestling. Seeing the Nexus, it was the first time I don't know if it, do you remember that? Did you ever see the original Attack when they tore up everything and all that shit? I mean, it's very popular.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. So, that was what I peeked in and saw. Yeah,
so the crowd, did you pay attention to how the crowd looked?
They were shocked. I remember it was silent. It was dead silent. Yeah, it was dead silent. That's the crowd reaction was what made me stick around. Like, oh, this don't seem like some kayfabe shit.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like
supposed to be half of it.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, they're literally, they're exposing wood on the canvas, concrete on the floor, like
giving stuff you don't see.
Exactly, stuff you're not supposed to see in the WWE universe. You're not supposed to see that there's mats and wood and stuff under the mat. It's just supposed to be a wrestling ring, concrete on the floor, and them giving all these finishers on wood and all this stuff, and exposing turnbuckles and destroying tables and all this shit.
Man.
It was some wild shit, man. And it was what, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like 6, 7 dudes. Like, I forget.
Yeah, it was just so random and just different for what the product was at the time to be seeing that. So yeah, like I can tell you this, the crew that breaks down the rings had an easy night that night.
Shit.
It was like, shit, we could go home early. You got these renegade kids from FCW and OVW coming in here to fuck shit up. All right, I'll go home early tonight. So yeah, that was my view into this iteration of the Nexus. So like the people I do know of, you got who's now on commentary, does a great job on commentary. Wade, I've got some bad news, Barrett. And then David Otunga, aka Jennifer Husband's ex-husband, who I always reference him to. And as we pre-potted today, I was telling Sean about what I first saw David Otunga from. If any of us reality show lovers out there from the mid 2000s, remember there's a little show, or I guess a universe of sorts, I call it the Flavor of Love verse, because you have Flavor of Love, I Love New York, Real and Chance, I Love Money. There's all these shows that originated from the OG Flavor of Love. So David Otunga, I forget what his like sex slave name was on the show, because New York would name all of these dudes when they showed up, but they would have like just ridiculous names. I can't remember what his was. But that's the first time I saw that man was on reality TV, and then seeing him in wrestling, and then on commentary and shit like that. So David Otunga, Heath Slater, he got kids, great gimmick. I remember that. I still try to find those shirts. I can't find one. So if he ever comes back to the WWE, they got to bring that shirt back so I can buy one. Who else is in it? I believe, help me out here, Sean. Who else is in it?
Justin Gabriel, the flippy guy.
Flippity flip.
Don't know
shit.
too much about him, but I know, he was solid in the group. That they used him as the kill shot. Once you took that what was it, like a 720 Phoenix splat, something like that? Yeah. Once you took that, you was out of there.
I think he did that on Cena that night.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I remember seeing that happen.
Yeah, and then
kind of sticks out to me.
And then one of actually the most asshole wrestlers I've ever witnessed, Ryback.
Oh yes, who's still in the news in current day wrestling for all the wrong reasons.
Fuck Ryback.
Still trying to sue Vince McMahon, if I remember correctly. Last time I heard
the first picture. I don't know. Have you ever watched Captain Planet? You know that show?
Yes.
So
classic.
So there's a picture of like all the different wrestling communities and people holding their rings up, and in the middle it just says "fuck Ryback" across Captain Planet forming, and that's the first picture I ever tweeted, and yeah, that's how I feel about Ryback.
I think that's a very accurate depiction of how the IWC feels about him, because the IWC disagrees on a lot, and it can be a very, very fucking toxic place. But if you stick Ryback out there, we all fucking bringing our powers combined. We fucking hate Ryback. So
pretty much,
yes, that's a real thing, and that's a very astute take, because that is the only way that you bring the IWC together, is if you get Ryback in the room. We will all want to whoop that ass. So so and I know there's some other guys sprinkled out through the Nexus that we didn't bring up in that first initial run. But
Michael Tarver and I think Darren Young or something like that.
Yes, Darren Young sounds familiar. He wasn't in the second in Nexus 2.0. So you got these guys. They're heavily involved in this storyline. They have like a whole hostile takeover, either with us or against us. They know Cena's against them. Cena's trying to talk talent into being like, hey, yo, these dudes are bad news. Like, we got to come together. Like, we the WWE. Like, fuck these dudes. Like, nah, we ain't got it. Was like, so he's trying to talk Sheamus into, like, you with us, you with them. And Sheamus drew his line in the sand. Like, if I'm going to be with anybody, it's these reckless-ass young dudes. I'm not joining up with you, Cena. Fuck you. So they have the blow-offs. And like I had mentioned earlier in the episode, Cena is taking some L's at this time to Sheamus. They even mentioned on commentary that Sheamus has beaten him at the last two pay-per-views, and even in a Fatal 4-Way match at the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view, Sheamus pinned John Cena. Like, he didn't even have to take a pin, and he took a pin, which just shows you like how anti-Hogan, if any word to call it is for Cena, and how it's kind of unfair that he gets that he's here to bury people, because I'm almost certain when he would go over, that wasn't his decision. It's because he was the hot hand, and we gotta make money, we gotta print t-shirts, we gotta sell merch, and we gonna sell that Fruity Pebbles shit. Like, that's what sells. So
absolutely,
we gotta put this guy over.
That's why
everybody loves Cena. Like, blame if anybody wants to call out Cena for being booked that way, blame the little kids that are still to this day obsessed with him. Like, so that's nobody's fault, but just the zeitgeist of Cena being a great gimmick. Like,
yeah, it's just Cena being
not
Cena.
his fault.
Yeah, bro, you can't help that. That man was just over. Bro,
correct.
The t-shirts, the music, the armbands, the headbands, like,
yeah, man, he was a merch machine. Like, they never released numbers. They always talk about Austin by far, and then everybody else as far as the merch sales go, and it still kind of stands to this day. But I'm very curious if Cena ever, because Cena wrestled an entirely longer time period than Austin. But that Austin 316 so iconic though. Like, shit, I have an Austin 316 shirt upstairs. I wear it quite regularly. That I bought during WrestleMania season when he fought KO with the Texas flag and the skull on the back. Yes, that's still to this day a very iconic look. Like, up there with your NWO shirts and shit like that. So I'm very curious on those merch sales. But back to this match and what's happening in it. Sheamus, they have some random ass factoid. You know, Vince is yelling at Michael Cole about in his ear about this is the 100th reign of the WWE Championship, and I'm just like, that is one of the most pointless factoids I think I've ever heard on a wrestling broadcast. So tell me, Sean, why you love the fact that they said this during this broadcast.
Because I love the fact that they're trying to make a match that's no significance has significance. Like, what significance that this is the 100th reign does that matter? Like,
thank you.
Like, literally, I've seen, I think, the WWE Championship got passed around 3 times in one night with the Shield. What does a fucking 100th reign have to do with anything? That is the most bullshit stat, useless stat, pointless stat that I've heard Michael Cole utter on a WWE broadcast, and pretty much ever. Not ever, but top 10. Useless.
Yeah, for sure. If we're gonna, that definitely makes the countdown if this ever created, of just why the hell did you say that in this match type of commentary. So this match is, like I said, it's not the best match. Very slow and plotty match. Very just, that's a Cena match at the end of the day. You don't really see Cena turn up a lot at this point in his career. He's kind of starting to work smarter as far as like the things he's doing in the ring.
Yeah.
You could argue with, say, like 05 through 09, like when I was kind of phasing out of the product. Cena was wrestling way, I guess I want to say reckless, but he was faster in the ring, so to speak. Now he's more slow and plotty, and let's do this. Let's sell the selling of this match versus let's just do a bunch of shit and raise somebody's hand at the end of the match. So it was a very slow, plotty match. You do hear some Cena sucks chants, so this is starting the beginning, I feel like, of the people revolting against Cena. And that's about to take a head, I'm sure. And then also on top of that, you get the whole like cat and mouse with Sheamus trying to climb the cage and attempting to climb because he's trying to tie
different ends.
Yeah, there's a point where Cena gets his arms tied in the ropes and Sheamus is like, "Oh, this is the perfect way to get out," and Cena gets out just in the nick of time. So a lot of that. And then you get the Nexus coming out. Both guys are like trying to leave. Cena's trying to get out. Cena like he's on the cage fighting these dudes like it's a goddamn beat 'em up arcade game from the 90s, like on some Streets of Rage shit. Like he threw I believe Mr. Flippity Flip into the ring and as a flip. And was just punching and kicking dudes on his way down. But nobody's really worrying about Sheamus on the other side. Sheamus gets out of there, wins the match, runs out of there faster than CM Punk does the next year in Chicago when he kisses Vince McMahon goodbye and off into the crowd. One of the most legendary Money in the Bank pay-per-views, in my opinion, which I can't wait to talk about on a later episode. That'll be a fun one. I can't wait to find an excuse to run that. But yeah, that's the match. Like I said, not a great match, but Sean, like I'm sure you probably agree, or was this like your shining moment in the Sheamus run, the Sheamus title era?
Nah, man. This one, it was a lot of holds, transitions. Cena likes to call a lot of the spots, on the fly and things like that. Mm-hmm. Not a fan of, this kind of work and rate that they were going. Very slow. Mm-hmm. I don't like slow, especially in a steel cage match. Why are you doing slow, methodical shit?
Thank you, bro. That's what I was saying. Like, it's not I hated it. I don't
get why you're trying to do
so
slow.
Different.
It should be different. Like, why are you going slow and methodical? Save that shit for, fucking TV Raw matches or something like that, bro. Like, give us some fast-paced WCW crazy ass, people getting thrown in the cage, especially with the Nexus. Like, you had a perfect opportunity to throw the whole match left with the ref bump and a Nexus intervention. That could have sped it up and made it a little bit better, but they still fucked that up too.
I agree. Just a weird match altogether. Kind of killed the momentum of the show, in my opinion. I think you got to end it with that Money in the Bank match that happened before this, to keep the show and have everybody kind of go home happy. But then at the end of it, you do get Cena beating the shit out of like the Nexus outside the ring, going kind of crazy. I think he could have went a little harder, but hey, that's just me.
He's a face. He can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I kind of like was tempering those expectations back, because he can only do so much. He don't want to go too crazy and have people kind of convoluted on who his character is as far as good guy or bad guy. But yeah, man, that's the show. Fade to black from there. First ever Money in the Bank pay-per-view in the books, man. So overall, what would you give this as a letter grade, Sean?
Just because it's the first, I'll go pretty easy, man. I'm gonna give it a C plus. It's gonna get a C plus. It's not terrible, but it most definitely. I'm not gonna say it's not good. I'll go B. I'll get a B. It's just a solid B. It's got shining ones. I'll say exactly. I'll say the WWE Championship Money in the Bank match kind of boosted that a little bit. Going back and thinking about it, the women's matches brought it down. The first Money in the Bank felt kind of weird because there was really nobody that I wanted to win per se. Mm-hmm. The Rey Mysterio and Jack Swagger match was just like I don't even.
Shout out to the list.
And then immediately getting squashed by Kane.
Yeah, the beginning of the show was rough. It's a rough watch in the beginning, but once you get, like I said, when you get to that, the Usos and Hart Dynasty match kind of pick it back up. The Swagger match kills that momentum that creates. Then the women's match is kind of just there as the women's match. It's filler. It's not terrible. It's not great. And then you get the Raw Money in the Bank, which is like the highest point of the night. So yeah, man, it's very interesting on this. But my letter grade, I mean, I venture more in that C plus range. I'm not gonna rip them to shreds. It's their first one, so they gonna stumble and kind of be clunky. But I go that route because they could have booked this better from how they knew the crowd was gonna react to certain things. And I can't put over enough that card on who was in that Money in the Bank for the Raw. Like, why would you not have all of these established stars to close out your night? I get it's Big Match John going for the WWE title. That's prerequisite. That's Hogan must pose type shit. I get it. But you got to recognize what's on your card. But Triple H wasn't in the room yet. So you're not going to get those types of smarter booking decisions at this point that we're more used to now here in the year of 2023. So, but yeah, that was Money in the Bank, folks. So that's a wrap. Looking forward to the Real Deal Holyfield on Saturday. Can't wait to get into predictions and such. Sean will be the voice you hear instead of mine this week on the main pod, reviewing that. So I'd be excited to listen and actually hear that man's predictions. But outside, as we always do in closing, this is the BA show, episode 5. As y'all know, where you can find me individually, absolutely nowhere. I know recently my wife had flirted when we were out doing our guerrilla marketing for the pod at a Raw last week in Cleveland. E-Ray really thought, like, because my wife had created a fake handle of @NoIGBrian using my government and shit. Didn't appreciate that, baby. Like, what the hell? But anyways, he was like, you should probably make that your IG. I'm like, I don't think about it. Probably not. Fuck that. But we'll see. But yes, in the meantime, though, Let Me Book Pod everything, Twitter, IG, Facebook, letmebookpod.com, where you find all of these episodes, including our main episodes released every Friday, right here for your ears every week. And then you get us every other week until next week, because we'll be coming to you for the whole month of July with nothing but that heat, that summer heat, that SummerSlam heat. So yes, we got some special stuff in store for y'all for the month of July, a little different than our normal schedule. That's all I'm gonna tease y'all with, and I'm gonna pass it to the homie Sean so he can let y'all know where you can find him and what he's got going.
Man, I'm only on Twitter, man. But no, for real though.
I'm only on Twitter. Fuck y'all. Find me. Matt Fourth Rope. Kiss my ass.
Pretty much. Nah, he pretty much said it, man. That's the only place it is. I haven't made an Instagram for those purposes yet or anything like that. Not on YouTube or anything. It's only on Twitter right now, but that is sure.
It's cool.
Exactly.
Stay tuned.
Exactly.
Great.
Man.
As the theme of this episode, I feel greatness takes time, and if you want to be great, you got to let it build. So we building, folks. So that is another episode of the BA Show featuring the genius of the fourth rope, Sean. We will be back, like I said, next week with that SummerSlam heat, and it's gonna be hot.